So here in this box is a portable PlayStation 2 that I bought from Aliexpress. Now there's not too much information about it. The listing on Aliexpress was pretty basic. It just said real PS2 and that was about it. You know, the pictures look pretty cool. It looks like a neat product and I guess a professionally done product when you look at it. And also, by the way, I paid about $450 for it, which if you've seen custom portable consoles, that's actually not too crazy of a price. All right, so open it up. We have a big hunk of bubble wrap, which I assume is the PS2. And here on the corner, we have a power supply to charge your PS2. And like usual, we have made in China plastered all over this thing. It's actually not quite as much as it was on the most recent one I bought. I bought a portable Dreamcast, portable Sega Dreamcast recently. I'll throw that video up on the screen if you want to go check that out. And this is interesting. So it says PS2 V7, and they use the legit PS2 logo and PlayStation logo. V7, I don't know if they've revised this thing 7 times or what, but that's kind of interesting to see. And so let's go ahead and open up this box and see what's inside of here. And wow, this thing is huge. Holy crap, that is big. I did not expect it to be quite that big. I guess it makes sense. I don't know if they had to trim down the motherboard. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this yet or not, but it's supposedly real hardware. At least that's what they said in the listing. And I guess that makes sense. It is so large, but man, this thing is a monster. You probably can't tell. Let me pull out some comparisons so you can see just how, frankly, how large this thing is. So we'll just start with the tape measure here. So from end to end, it's more than 10 inches long. That thing is, it's huge. 5 inches tall, and the depth is like a little under 2 inches, 1.5 inches, but it's, you know, it's huge. And then here's a PS2 Slim, so if I set that down, you can see that this console is actually longer than a PS2 Slim, wider, whatever you can call it, and height-wise it's actually pretty close. And then if we take a fat PS2, it's actually almost as long as a fat PS2. Now clearly the fat PS2 is a lot fatter and taller, that sort of thing, but I'm assuming they used a PS2 Slim motherboard in here. I guess we'll find out when we open it up. Hey, so I just wanted to pause real quick and tell you guys that you should check out my website. It's called jrobgaming.com. The link will be down below. I sell video games and consoles. I also buy video games and consoles, and I have a new mystery discount code every single day if you sign up for my newsletter. So if you're looking to buy or sell, go ahead and check it out. And now, like I said, this has real hardware in it. At least that's what they said. I'm assuming it's real hardware because it's so large, but you basically load games off of this USB drive, which has an SD card in it, where you can load games into it. So I'm assuming the console has to have homebrew on it, so you can do that. And then let's just kind of take a look at this console. So you got your D-pad, which does not feel like original D-pad, PS2 D-pad. The buttons don't feel original either, but they at least look pretty solid. They have the actual, you know, X, square, triangle, and O. You got your analog sticks, which I don't know, those might actually be the same analog sticks that are used for the PS3 maybe. You got your start and select. You've got your, I guess, home button here. And this thing really looks very similar to a PlayStation Vita, which is why you're probably wondering, like, where have I seen this shape before? Let me pull out a PS Vita and we'll compare. So here's a PS Vita, and as you can see, it has pretty much the same shape. Got the same contours around the edge. You have your two little handle kind of holes here. Very similar, just obviously a whole lot larger. I mean, PS Vita is like not even half the size. And let's take a look at the top. So as you already saw, SD card, where you load your games up. I'm assuming this plus and minus here is for the volume. The buttons are kind of wonky for some reason. You got M and TV. So, I wonder if it has a TV out. I don't see any TV out for it yet, but we'll find out. And then here on the bottom, you have some ventilation. As you can see, lots of holes. You got your 8.4 volt charging jack, which is interesting. It's the same voltage that was used for the Sega Dreamcast I bought recently. Not sure why they went with 8.4. It's just a kind of random voltage. Got your on and off switch. And then back on the top, I didn't mention yet, but you have your L1, R1, L2, and R2, which are just 3D printed buttons, which are a little bit different than everything else. Now the case appears to be 3D printed, which makes sense because that's just kind of how custom stuff is nowadays. And if you see all these ridges, that's definitely like a 3D printed kind of texture. And of course you got a speaker here, and then one over on this side as well. And then flipping over to the back, oh, that thing even more looks like the PS Vita on the back. They added the two little ovals here, just like the PS Vita, which are kind of your spots where your fingers rest. And then of course there's no touchpad back here, but the PS Vita, that's actually a touchpad. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty neat console. It is massive, but it's actually not too bad in the hands. Not crazy heavy, maybe like a pound, maybe a little bit less. But let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on and see what it does. But actually, first of all, I would like to peel this screen film off. Ooh, satisfaction right there. Nice. All right, so now we'll turn it on. Flip that on switch, see if we have some battery. And it appears that we do have some battery. It is supposed to be an IPS screen, so I'm expecting it to look nice. Clearly it's a widescreen, not 4x3, which is, you know, standard for this time. No signal. All right, well, that's not good. We should definitely have a signal here. It should boot up the PS2 when you turn it on. This appears to just be turning the screen on and not the actual PS2. Not sure what the deal is there. Maybe that button does something. Still no signal. Press it again. So it does appear to switch between inputs when I click that button, but still nothing booting up. All right, well, that's not good. It's not working so far, so let me go ahead and mess around with this thing and see what I'm missing. So I've had a pretty wild ride trying to figure this thing out, and long story short, I found some solder debris that was laying across a few pins on the AV chip, and it was causing it, I guess, to short out and cause the console not to turn on. So let me just show you real quick what I'm talking about. So I'll give you a more in-depth look in a little bit of the insides, but as you can see, here it is. And the main thing to note is you have this chip right here, this custom PCB connected to a chip that's just laying here. And the audiovisual chip is actually right under here, so I didn't even look at it for hours. I was just looking around this thing, trying to figure stuff out. I did not even look under it because this thing was covering it up. But once I did, I found this debris right here. I'll zoom in on it so you can see it. So right here, this is the debris I'm talking about. My camera can barely even focus on it because it's so small. But it's basically solder debris and like the ends of wires, and somehow it came loose, I guess either in shipping or they were just careless when soldering, and yeah, it was basically straddled across a few pins on the chip. So a closer look, here's the PCB that's just kind of flapping in the wind, and the audiovisual chip is right under that. So if we prop this up and lift the PCB up a little bit, there's actually a chip right here, and you can kind of see some of the debris where I had to basically peel the solder off because it was stuck to it. It was basically straddled across those few pins right there. I know it's kind of hard to see, but just trust me, it was pretty bad. And there were also a few other things I ran into along the way, but that was the main thing. And let's go ahead and just turn this thing on, and I'll show you that it is working now. The funny thing is I had actually made an entire segment kind of ending this video because the console just was not working, so I assumed it wasn't going to work at all, but here we are. And one of the other things I figured out is that once you turn the switch on the bottom, you actually have to press this little home button right here, and that's what turns the PS2 on. So that was my first issue, but even when I figured that out, it still didn't work because the AV chip was messed up. But now it should boot up, and there it is. Cool. So it did boot up this time. Booted up into OPL, which is basically a way to play games via the USB drive on the PS2. So I'm assuming this thing has FreeMic boot loaded into the memory card, and then we can load up some homebrew. So we got OPL as the homebrew and basically a way to play games. I guess these are some games. So that looks like Tekken 4. I'm not sure what VR4 is. Looks like a bunch of abbreviations. Let's try TK4, assuming that's Tekken 4, and we'll see if it plays. So there it goes. It's loading up. And one thing to note is that apparently on the PS2, the USB drive is actually slower than disk drive because the USB drive uses USB 1.1, which is extremely slow. So kind of similar to the Sega Dreamcast I bought, the volume actually gets extremely loud. Oh, that's way too loud. Let me turn that down. I'm not going to call the speakers good, but they're serviceable and they get very loud. So it is Tekken 4. Buttons seem responsive. That's good to see. We'll go with hard. Why not? Yeah, so far the D-pad seems responsive. We'll go ahead and just go to arcade. One thing to note is the D-pad is actually kind of squeaky. Oh, actually. Oh, man, you gotta press pretty hard on the left D-pad to go to the left. As you can see, I'm pressing left right now, and it's not doing anything. I have to press like all the way down. That's kind of disappointing. We'll go with Steve. That's a classic name. I mean, overall, the feel of this console is actually not too bad. It's pretty heavy, but it's manageable, and you can get your fingers up here pretty decently to press the trigger buttons, and I'm actually pretty impressed with the 3D printed trigger buttons. They actually don't look too bad or feel too bad. Analog stick is not working. I wonder if I have to press a button to enable that. All right, D-pad is working a little bit. X is working, square works, triangle works. The buttons seem okay. I can just tap them and they work. The D-pad is what's kind of crappy, and the analog stick's not working right now. I'm assuming that's something in the settings. That actually might be something in the main console settings. But let's check out these other buttons up here. So plus and minus are the volume. TV is changing inputs. I'm not sure what that does. Oh, okay. So it just changes. You can basically adjust your brightness, backlight, contrast, saturation, all that standard stuff. All right, so let's go back to the main menu. Maybe if I press it once, it'll go back. I guess we're about to find out. All right, yep. So here we are. We're back on the main menu. And let's see if we can get back to the PS2 menu. So I exited OPL. We are back on the standard PS2 menu, and there it is. Boom. We've got our, standard browser right here, browser, system configuration, the system menu we all know and love. I'm actually going to turn this thing off, see if I can load up my own game and see if it works. So I went back and added a few of my own games. This one you can ignore, it's just fragmented. I need to get rid of that, but I had a Scooby-Doo Unmasked and NBA Street, and they seem to work pretty well. I had one issue with NBA Street where when you go left on the joystick, it seems to pause sometimes. Not sure why, because I tried that on Scooby-Doo Unmasked and it doesn't seem to be an issue, so it might be an issue with this file. But I'll just boot it up and show you some gameplay. Biggest issue I had so far is the left D-pad does not work unless you press it down really hard. Fortunately, you don't use the left D-pad all that often. Probably some games you do, but I mean the screen looks pretty good. It's an IPS screen supposedly. I think it looks solid for a PS2. Clearly this is a widescreen. Some people aren't gonna like that, but honestly I'm not too deterred by it, and it's pretty comfortable in the hands. I played this for a little while and haven't had any issues except for the going left on the joystick in this game and then left on the D-pad. See, I get paused every once in a while. I think it's just something wrong with the game because, like I said, I played Scooby-Doo and didn't have the issue, so I'm not sure what the issue is. So I figured I'd show you a little bit of the Scooby-Doo gameplay as well. It doesn't look quite as good on the screen here just because it's in a dark area, so honestly it's kind of hard to see Scooby when he's running around, but it's not all that bad. So the last thing I want to do is open this thing up and show you a bit of the inside. I have a little bit of experience with the inside now that I was poking around in there so much when I was trying to fix this thing, but it's pretty simple to take apart. There's 2 screws in the bottom, 2 screws in the top, and then 2 in the back. And one thing I wanted to mention while I'm doing this is I'm actually going to be doing some streams on Whatnot soon. Not sure when, probably towards the end of July. And yeah, so make sure to follow me if you want to check those out. So I have mixed feelings about the insides of this thing. Honestly, it's not terrible considering it's a custom portable. It is version 7, so I'm sure versions 1 through 6 had some issues. But there is a little 3D printed thing to hold the batteries in, so that's nice. You've got a lot of custom PCBs in here, at least they appear to be custom. There's an entire PCB behind the screen for, I guess, routing the controls, controlling the screen, that sort of thing. So lots of stuff here. Another thing to mention is that the soldering doesn't look great. Just like look up here, there's some big blobs. They left a bunch of flux. So it's could be worse, but it also could be a whole lot better. I mean, my main issue was the fact that they left debris under this chip attached to the AV chip, which literally caused the screen to not turn on. And so yeah, that was pretty annoying. But I mean, overall for a custom portable, the insides look pretty good. They're routed decently. You're not strapped too hard. These cables are a little bit taut right here, so you can't actually lay this thing down without either taking this piece off or unplugging this cable right here. But unless you're coming in here to do a bunch of major work, that's not a huge deal. And one other interesting thing to point out is there is an HDMI jack on the screen, which is why you saw 2 inputs, and one was HDMI. So I'm assuming you can plug something else into here and play it on the screen. Not sure the point of that, but just something to point out. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, let me know down below what your favorite PS2 game is and if you would buy this thing. And yeah, have a great day.